What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi and Sheets. Sheets. We're going to be talking about NFL Week 11. My lucky number of mine. And this is a week I feel good about. It's a very early look. We're doing this on Tuesday, but a little momentum from a really good week last week, and I did it on much smaller volume, which is sort of what I think I'm going to try to focus on for my bigger buy-ins. Instead of spreading out to 3 stacks, so I'm playing 5 big lineups or 4 stacks of 5 big lineups, I want to stick it to less than that. And then in my larger field, I want to start, spreading out more in those. So that's just something I want to correct about my play going forward. Sheets, what are your sort of initial takes? First of all, how did things go last week for the NFL for you? And then talk about this week.
As I mentioned, when we talked about the Monday stuff, I've got the right teams, but just not necessarily the right combinations. And I lost money I only played the Millie Makers. So I lost money in those. And I won money in the showdown last night. I always win in the showdown. I always min cash. I don't know how I do it. I always min cash the big buy-ins in the showdowns.
That's awesome.
It was the garbage time drive at the end that got there for the Rams, by the way. Awesome. In any case, I think you guys would appreciate this. For those of you that have been watching, these videos since the beginning, and you can tell that I'm a little, I don't want to say sour on the NFL, but let's just say I'm not as excited about the NFL as like most people are. And even like last week, I did my own video. I'm like, got nothing exciting for you. My numbers show that these 4 stacks or whatever, I think these are the best teams and I can't find anything different. I'd like to say that I really, really like this week in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And coming from me, I there's like 1 or 2 teams that may stand out a little bit, but after that, I could go like a lot of places. So for me, I'm actually gonna play a little bit this week in the NFL, and I'm going to pay close attention to ownership because I think that there should come some lower owned at least situations that can really get there. And I just don't see a lot of difference between a lot of these spots. And you'll be able to make easy cases for some of them, but maybe not for others, which is going to keep some of these low owned. You have a running back position, which is not exactly going to knock your block off, and it's I'm actually looking forward to this slate a little bit. And hopefully we can break this down. Remember, for those of you that aren't following along, this is the early look. So this is like Tuesday, Wednesday. We're happy to be doing it Tuesday. And then Rhodey and Bobby do a much better, deeper dive later in the week, either Thursday or Friday. And then Sunday, during the live show, we kind of like go through, the last minute changes and things like that. But I'm curious to see what you like this week.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of, just right then, we've already got a player ruled out. That's so bizarre. It's the NFL. It's a Tuesday. That's Le'Veon Bell. It wasn't like that significant.
Oh, okay.
It's just strange that they're announcing it. I guess maybe they forgot to announce it sooner, but just weird that I got that notification just now. It's an interesting week. So why don't you pull up your screen and we'll go game by game, because I think I still need to figure out some of what I want to do. I do think there's a lot of places to take some contrarian stances, and I don't know how contrarian this one will end up being, but one of my favorite receivers on the board is in this first game, and it's not AJ Brown, it's Brandon Cooks. I think Cooks, if Taylor's going to be the quarterback, I'm going to play Brandon Cooks. First of all, he's getting plenty of work without Taylor as quarterback, and he'll get more, in my opinion, with Tyrod Taylor. I don't necessarily. Tennessee deserves everything. They've beaten good teams. They're good. Their defenses looked like a total transformation. Like, they did not look like they could cover anybody for the first few weeks, and that was what people thought was going to happen all year. It certainly has not been the case that it's gone like that. I still don't entirely trust the secondary. So my only real play in this game is Brandon Cooks. I may at some point get some AJ Brown. That's all I've got in this first game, but I really like Brandon Cooks. And I think that if it was a small slate, like a 6-gamer or something, or a 3-gamer or a Thanksgiving Day slate, I would be playing Tyrod Taylor with Brandon Cooks. I just don't think you need to go do that on this slate.
I think you're going to need at some point to address the second receiver on Tennessee, wherever that is, because Julio went to the injured reserve.
Yeah.
So whether we play him or not, it's probably going to be discussed ad nauseum at some point. Because aside from AJ Brown, everybody's 3,500, right?
Right.
So whether it's Chester Rogers or Nikhil Alexander Walker, whoever that guy is, Westbrook, whatever, or M. Johnson, I don't even know who these people are. One of them is, someone's got to get owned in the spot. They have to. So we're gonna have to think about that. Right now, I don't have any of them tagged, so I'm not gonna worry about it quite yet. But aside from that, Cooks makes a lot of sense with respect to first of all, the game script. I mean, Tennessee's rates to be a 10-point favorite, so the Houston does rate to be throwing the ball quite a bit, and you're getting the more efficient looks with Tyrod Taylor as opposed to whoever was there before. Is that Mills? What that was? I think Cooks would be my only real idea from this game as well. I don't really want to stack either of these pieces, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
and
I actually
defense
like.
Obviously looks
so I think who's going to project is going to be Marcus Johnson, who had 100 yards receiving last week.
Oh, okay, there it is.
And I'm okay with it. It's early in the week for me to get the feel. And like exactly what you said though about talking about all these guys at 3.5K. My problem is they all, I feel like, have sort of the same. They're sort of like the same situation, and we haven't really, other than Marcus Johnson having that one game, we haven't really seen much out of any of them that would make us feel like we need to play them. But I do think Marcus Johnson might be a potential cheap option. I think we're probably by Sunday going to have some other cheap options just because it's the NFL in week 11. So there's going to be things that change between now and then.
Yeah, I just predicted that groupthink and crap like that is going to make one of these guys 20% owned. I don't know who it's going to be, but you're going to have some coach come out and say something stupid after one of the practices, like, Chester Rogers really looked good running routes today, and woo, there it is, 20% ownership.
Yeah.
Something
No,
like
you're
that.
right. That is how things work with the NFL.
It's just the way it's going to be,
Yeah.
And I'll probably end up not playing.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to move on?
Yeah. Why don't you start the next game? I'm trying to load our golf video right now.
Okay, so this is the first of the two teams that kind of stand out for me, and that would be Buffalo. They needed to get right spots, so they got it against the Jets, obviously, and obviously Indianapolis is a little better defense, obviously, than the Jets. But I think that straightened Buffalo out. I think that they're going to continue to do well. Buffalo rates for me to be the second best offense of the week, and just kind of the normal guys. Josh Allen, Beasley, Sanders, Diggs. Not in that order, obviously Diggs would be the top play, but Diggs, Beasley, Sanders, and then you have easy run backs with what's his name with Pittman, I suppose. And I'm not playing Jonathan Taylor against Buffalo. I'm just not doing it. And that's pretty much it. I think Buffalo's going to continue to look. They're in a dogfight for the division now. They're going to continue to look. They maybe learned something from that Jacksonville performance, and they're going to get their act together. They have a kind of a tough game coming up at Thanksgiving at New Orleans. So this is a game I think they're going to do well. So I think Buffalo is a team definitely to target.
I'm totally in agreement. I mean that's one thing that did really well for me. And I was actually really surprised at the sub 10% ownership for Josh Allen and for Stephon Diggs last week. We hadn't really had the giant Diggs week, and it felt like a perfect spot for them to get right. And sure enough, he did. And by the way, when they were up by 35 in the fourth quarter, Josh Allen was still throwing the ball to Stephon Diggs. Okay, so there's a lot to feel good about with that pairing, especially. But I think this is a spot because of I don't trust the corners for Indy at all. So I want to get some Sanders. I don't usually love Beasley unless I think the game's going to be really tight, and this game could be tight. But I have interest in Beasley. The problem I have with Beasley is that I believe that Gabriel Davis is a real talent and offers them a different sort of dimension by going over the top that Beasley and Sanders at this point of his career don't really offer as much. So that's the only thing that worries me about any of the second receivers to pair. And I usually like to just play Josh Allen with one receiver anyway, but they do have some talent there at receiver with Sanders, Beasley, and Davis. So I'll be interested in maybe double stacking, which I'm not usually interested in. The problem I have is on the other side. I don't think Pittman is a good play. I don't like the matchup at all. I'm not going to put anybody against Tre'Davious White and feel good about it. He is 6.1, which based on his production is completely fair. If Ty is back this week, though, what I would do is I am very happy to play the second. I mean, back this week he was back last time. I am very happy to take a shot on the secondary receiver against Buffalo, just because if I'm looking for a run back at cheap. So T.Y. Hilton is actually the guy I've got as my favorite run back, and there is a chance that I will have some Nyheim Hines lineups with the Indy playing from behind, sort of going there, but it's probably not right on a full slate to do it. I do think that the TY as a long shot play is something I'm a little bit interested in. So mostly though, it's going to be the Buffalo side of the ball. And whether it's Allen to Diggs or Allen to Diggs and Beasley and Sanders, I still may not even look for a run back. I really like that side, though. I think it might be the best offense on the slate.
Next game, Philly against New Orleans. I like Dallas Goddard, and that's pretty much.
Ooh, that was a very quick sum up. All right, so Philly against New Orleans. I mean, it depends. If Kamara plays, he's going to be one of my favorite plays on the slate. Like, I think he's an absolutely awesome spot. We know you can run the ball against Philly. This again, I know New Orleans defense is good. It's really weird to see New Orleans as an underdog to Philly right now. That's one thing I'll say right off the bat is regardless of who's playing for New Orleans, I do like New Orleans in this game. And I think Philly's going to have trouble offensively. So I would put Kamara as one of my favorites, and probably a little too much to pay for Devontae Smith. I'm open to playing Callaway here, but I think it's probably reaching on this slate. So you're right. I think Goddard is probably the only other guy I would play, but Goddard and Kamara, I think assuming Goddard's healthy. If he's not healthy, you're going to have some cheap options for a team that likes to throw to tight ends, and we can decide whether that's Jack Stoll or Tyree Jackson. But
that sounds like showdown slate plays, though.
It does, but if you get a 2.5 guy who can, get you 9 fantasy points, that's probably decent. You know what I mean? I don't know, just thinking out loud here, but I do like Dallas Goddard, assuming that he's in a lot, and I love Kamara if he's in. I think Kamara would be one of my favorite plays on the slate, assuming that he's a full go.
You like Ingram if Kamara's out?
Oh, I should have addressed that. Yes, I do. A little bit more expensive. I don't feel quite as that he needs to go off, but he did get 7 targets and he had 20 fantasy points. He had a rush. He also had 14 carries last week. I think Ingram, so it's Kamara or Ingram. I think they're both good plays, but I really hope it's Kamara because I think he could explode against a team like this that gives up big plays to running backs. So, all right, you want to start us off Miami and the Jets? I'm having trouble loading the video, so it's
well, it's not going to be very exciting.
Okay.
I had all my talk about how I like all these teams, and it's not getting any of them yet. Oh, we'll get there eventually. But I tell you, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like 9 teams that I'll play, and we just haven't gotten any of them yet, except for Buffalo.
Okay.
And Miami and the Jets is a no for me also. I don't right now at least have really any interest in anything at all from this game.
I think Myles Gaskin is in play. I like the price on him. I think that it would be like he versus Ingram if there was no Kamara. I think it's actually a pretty close conversation. We've seen the Jets get burned by the running game, even though I actually think that, again, their offense makes their defense look worse than it is.
He's all right. Yeah, I got Gaskin. He's okay. Yeah,
so I think Gaskin, Gesicki, and Waddle would be the only guys I'd consider, but not overly in love with it. I think Miami has I like Miami to cover the point spread though in that game, but.
Well, what is interesting, actually, there are 3 guys that are rated okay all around the same price tags. That's something to keep an eye on. You have Gaskin at 5,700, Carter at 5,800, and in another game, you have Eli Mitchell at 5,800.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, you want to start us off with the next one? Sorry, I'm still trying.
This is another one I don't like. Well, except for McCaffrey. Okay. So I like McCaffrey. I missed your show on Sunday, but from what you told me afterwards, you guys were talking about him as a possibility, and he's and even though I don't even think he scored a touchdown or something.
No, he didn't, because they gave it to Cam at the goal line. He was tackled twice inside the 3, and then he stepped out of bounds on one that they called a touchdown. They had to call back that his toe got out of bounds, so he almost had 3 touchdowns.
I'll say this that. I mean, if on a slate with not the greatest running back options, I mean, I think this is a guy you have to have, if he has a good game. You know what I mean? Like, he could put like 35 points up here, and you're just going to want it. Now, I know Washington is, I don't know where we at now. I mean, everybody keeps going back and forth whether it's a good defense, bad defense, good defense, bad defense, and no one even knows. But all I know is that Christian McCaffrey is awesome when he's healthy. Is he healthy completely? Probably not, but better than he was, and probably better this week than last week. And look, Carolina's season's probably dead, but whatever. they're gonna feed him, and they're gonna get a win at home. And I'm pretty sure this is, if I'm not mistaken, is this not Carolina revenge against the coach coming back or something? You know, it's Rivera.
Yeah. Even though they love the coach, but yeah.
Yeah. In any case, I think that McCaffrey's kind of a standout here, and I'm gonna try to get him as much as possible. And on the Washington side, you know, if anything, you know, I'm always can play a little bit of McLaurin, but I don't know. Carolina's struggled this year. They looked like they were going to be decent, and then they had a couple of bad ones, but their defense still tries. I'll probably stay away from the Washington side of the ball. I'll probably just play McCaffrey. And you know what? Actually, as of right now, Carolina rates to be the best defense on the slate for me. So I guess this all makes sense. I'll play McCaffrey. I'll play Carolina defense, and we'll roll from there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have interest. I definitely have interest in McCaffrey as well. Also, I mean, Chase. Yeah, I know that they showed up against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has 3 teams they really struggle with: Washington, New Orleans, and the Rams. And you know, they really struggle with the pass rush. So that's why Tampa Bay last week against Washington. I mean, I think Washington looked great in that game. I really liked that. The way they played a phenomenal game. Like, I mean, I was watching that game because I had players in it. It was really well played by Washington. I have some interest in McLaurin still, but I definitely like McCaffrey. Those are pretty much it for me. I mean, Antonio Gibson, I don't like to play teams against him. I know he had 2 touchdowns last week, but he had to grind for every bit of it. I mean, 24 carries for 64 yards in that grind out win against Tampa. And I love Gibson. He looked great for like being back because that's a tough defense. But this is another really tough defense to run against. So I will. I have some interest in Antonio Gibson, but it makes me a little nervous to do it against Carolina. But I think he's right there with the other 7K guys I mentioned. And it's not a great matchup, but he's also not 7K. So both running backs, I think, are pretty interesting there. And you want to start us off with boy, you're talking about teams that looked bad last week. Well, actually, Detroit had their best game of the year, and it just was really ugly.
Detroit plays a good game everywhere. Detroit has like 2 bad performances the whole season. I mean, like Detroit tries really hard.
They try really hard, but I mean, it was that I watched. I don't care. I've watched a lot of football in my life. That was the worst played football game. I've never seen
that. I've heard that. It was so bad. Fortunately or unfortunately, I watch a lot of Detroit football this year because, like, I'm Survivor. Like, everybody's always playing against Detroit, you know,
right? Whether
you're on them or you're rooting for them. And I got them home last week with the tie. That's all you needed. And they try hard. I don't like the Detroit side of this game at all. I think that with their offensive line back, I think that their path is, if they have one, is going to run the ball. And I'm not into the Detroit passing game this week. And I'll tell you this, I think that this is a game where Cleveland, is Chubb back? If Chubb plays, I mean, this is what this feels like. This feels like Cleveland runs the ball 40 times and wins the game 17-3. I mean, that honestly feels like what's going to happen in this game. I don't think that, you know, that I think that Cleveland's not a team that's going to be throwing the ball around anymore. I don't know. I just think that if they can get the lead, they can get Chubb going, let their defense do their thing. You know, I think that Cleveland is going to win a nice, safe, low-scoring game. So I'm probably going to be off of this for fantasy, with the exception of, similarly, maybe Chubb if he plays, and Chubb and Cleveland defense.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically where I'm at too, and I don't know if there's a whole lot else to say in this game.
Yeah, right. I mean,
and they made Dearness Johnson a little bit pricier, but I would play Dearness Johnson as well. They're all these 5K guys are going to be available.
If Chubb plays,
if Chubb doesn't play,
right? Okay.
Yeah. I do think that I probably would play. I'll probably play a little bit of Jarvis Landry. That's pretty much it. I don't really want to touch any of the Detroit side.
Yep.
I love the Cleveland defense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, another slogger. San Francisco against Jacksonville. Oh my God, this is all going to come from the 4 o'clock games. That's what's going to happen. No, we'll get to some better ones. San Francisco, Jacksonville. The only thing that's stopping me from saying that Mitchell is a super smash play is that one thing I did notice is with Wilson back, they are sharing that. You know what I mean? They are doing drives with Wilson being the guy, just to be diverse, whatever. But aside from that, I do like I do like Mitchell. I also think Jacksonville against the spread is pretty live here. I mean, San Francisco coming off of that. I mean, their best performance in, like, I guess, a while. I mean, to say the least, last night, right? Yep. It's hard to deny that. Now going to Jacksonville, who's been feisty every freaking week. Jacksonville. They even against Indianapolis, they had a 17. They were down like 17-0. They had the ball down 6. At the end. So I think Jacksonville at home is very live in this game. It's probably gonna be a low-scoring game, which to me means just really badness for fantasy. If anything, Mitchell, and that's pretty much it.
I actually really like a few pieces of San
Let's
Francisco.
go. Let's hear it.
But the odd part is that I actually kind of agree with you that I think Jacksonville has a great chance to. I think they have a great chance to win this game. So yeah, I would definitely take them against the spread right now. It's with being -7 or +7. I like Mitchell. Again, I have same concerns that you do, but I still like him. I'm going to keep playing. I'm just going to keep doing it. Nobody's going to stop me. I'm going to keep playing Brandon Ayuk. I still think there's talent, and they're starting to play him more and more. Look his way more and more. Tough matchup yesterday for him against the Rams. But my favorite play is George Kittle. I think he's probably going away the best tight end on the slate. Like I really, well, for me, he's rating that way, which is weird, but I really, really like him. Not weird. It's just what it is. James Robinson should be back and fully going. So I think I'd be open to it. All the cheap receivers are mildly interesting to me, but I just can't find anybody that I feel comfortable playing. That's why it's weird, because here I am saying I like Jacksonville to possibly win, but I'm interested in the San Francisco offense. I'm not really interested in much on the Jacksonville side of the ball. So do with it what you will. On the short week going to Jacksonville, I feel like it's going to be a good spot for Jacksonville. Jacksonville's defense has looked so much better, by the way. But I still do like those other guys. And if you're looking for a cheap defense, I think Jacksonville's going to pop up for me as a cheap defense that I want at 2.3K. That's it pretty much for me in this game. It's kind of an ugly one, but I do think the Jaguars could make this sloppy and get the win there.
Yep. All right, Green Bay, Minnesota. I like this game. Now it's getting a little bit tough to say that because Green Bay has been involved in some kind of I don't want to say yawners, but some defensive games recently, I think. And Minnesota, they go well with both ways, man. They sometimes can get involved in these shootouts, and sometimes they could play the ugly ones. But both teams seem to rate okay. So this could be kind of I don't want to say semi-sneaky, whatever stack, I guess. And I don't know which way to start, whether it be Rodgers and Adams, or whether it be Cousins and Thielen or Jefferson, or Dalvin Cook. But if you do get the version of this game where they score points, it's going to be rates to be a close game. This is a game that I think could be something to target.
I agree. I'm a little concerned because both of these Minnesota's defense looks way better than it did earlier this season, and Green Bay's defense looks awesome.
Looks legit, right? I mean,
they looked really good. How they stayed in that game with they literally couldn't move the ball more than like 6 yards of possession, I think, for the first half of the game against Kansas City. They still only gave up 14 points. And yeah, we could say Kansas City hasn't been the same, but they put up 500 points Sunday. Right. I love Rodgers to Adams. It's a similar. I think I prefer Allen to Diggs at the moment, but that would probably be my next favorite of anything we've covered. And the pricing, it's really hard to play like with Jefferson on the run back or Cook on the run back without going really cheap elsewhere. But maybe what you could look to do is play Adam Thielen, who's a little bit cheaper, saves you a little bit, and does still have tremendous upside. And even he's always going to be a red zone threat. So I kind of like that idea of maybe taking him. Tyler Conklin keeps getting in the end zone for him, which is sort of taking away some of these guys' upsides, which is weird because they mostly use him for blocking, but then they keep running these little 2-yard plays for him at the goal line. Kind of sucks to when you play Cook as much as I do. But I Cook, Adams, and Rodgers, and I do like this as a potential game stack that way. I don't think I want to get a ton else involved though, because it's kind of basically impossible because of the prices, right? Like really, really hard to get anybody else in this game unless you want to play like a Randall Cobb or I guess maybe one thing you could consider is KJ Osborne. I still believe this kid's really talented, and he's only gotten there twice this year. He's got there 3 times. I would take 15 fantasy points for a 3,400 guy, but just because he had a terrible week last week and didn't do anything, maybe he's a guy who you could get a little creative with the stack. But yeah, it's an expensive stack, so just keep that in mind. And a little bit nervous to pay a lot of money for an expensive stack against defenses that look a lot better. That's the only thing I'm worried about. Baltimore, Chicago.
Nothing really. I mean, Lamar, I guess. I mean, Lamar's a good play. He's always a good play. But I just think they're better options than anything from this game. I really didn't get them.
Yeah, I'll have my Lamar to the problem is Marquise Brown is so expensive now. I do like Rashad Bateman as an individual play too, so I could consider doing something like that. I also think that Mark Andrews is always a strong play. I kind of am finding myself leaning towards Kittle between the two of them, but I mean, I do like Andrews in general, and obviously has massive upside. I also think that okay, Justin Fields, I mean, he looked really, really good in that comeback attempt. I still believe in the talent, and I think there's a ceiling for him. He can move. So the Green Bay, Baltimore, whose defense has been shaky at best. You are getting David Montgomery back here at 5,500. So they've struggled with some of the running game. So it's weird because the running game makes me want to play Fields, but it also makes me want to play Montgomery. So I kind of like the idea of if I did do a Lamar to Bateman or Andrews, and then you run it back with David Montgomery. But even if you're not using it in a game stack, I think Montgomery at 5,500 is probably a superior play to the other guys we mentioned. We've seen one good week out of Baltimore defensively, and they've also given up 4 of the biggest games of the years to running backs. So David Montgomery at 5,500 is interesting to me. And
so clearly, I mean, if you're winning all the money after 1 o'clock, I mean, you probably have no chance to win. Okay, so you eyeball these 3 games. I mean, these 4 o'clock games. It's pretty obvious that there's action here. Okay, but I will also say that I'm just looking at these games together. Don't just presume that the Dallas Kansas City game is just the only game on the board. But I'm going to start with the Cincinnati Vegas game, and you know what? Cincinnati's coming off of a freaking beatdown against Cleveland, and now they have a bye to work it out. They're going to come out freaking slinging, okay, at Vegas, and Vegas is coming off kind of a get back, come back to earth game. They ran into the resurgence of the Chiefs right in front of the steam train. And they're probably going to come out slinging. And I think this game could go freaking bananas. All right. And I like Burrow. I like Chase. I like Higgins. The tight end. This is I think this is a tremendous spot for them. And I like Vegas too. I like the what's his name? Carr, Waller, even Renfro. And if I'm not mistaken, is Deshaun Jackson on Vegas now? He caught a 40-yard pass, but he ended up fumbling it at the end. Or whatever, they're sending him deep. He still breaks slates, man. That guy. So I'm really, really into this game as maybe a pivot off of Dallas, Kansas City, or maybe just on its own. I really like this game a lot. Yeah, I like it too. Maybe a little bit, not as. I have a more concentrated thing. I don't mind the Burrow, but I love T. Higgins this week. He's my favorite of their receivers on the assistant side. I don't think I want to pay 7,600 for Mixon, only because the other guys we can get, like Cook and Kamara and McCaffrey. I mean, just all those 8K guys are just not enough more expensive for me to avoid them. Bryan Edwards is my favorite play on the Raiders. Oh, there you go. I forgot about him too.
Yeah, 4,100. Had a nice game last week. I know it was a big play against KC, and I know it's KC, but we've seen Cincinnati just get abused lately. So I'm bleeding Bryan Edwards. I don't think I can get to Deshaun because I think that Zay Jones, they're sort of splitting that type of thing, and he could always break a play. So sure, that I guess in that sense, it always makes sense.
Late slate.
Yeah, late slate. Yeah, absolutely. That I could for sure get on board with. And then, no one's going to look at Josh Jacobs this week because of what's happened last week. And, it wasn't involved in the passing game. They're using Drake. I don't think I'm going to end up getting to Jacobs, but I was definitely considering it. And you mentioned Waller, who I like, but I like both tight ends in this game. I mean, if I played in 6K tight ends, I might play an Andrews and a Waller, or a Waller and a what's his name, Kittle. I think those guys have like the same ceilings as the receivers do. So I think I might be considering doing something like that. I also think if you're going to play the stack, I might go with the Uzoma and
Higgins.
There it is. With Burrow. I think that's kind of, then you got a cheap stack with Burrow, and you don't even need that game to be the nuts. You know what I mean? You can get 30 from your two guys and your two receivers, and then maybe you run it back with, maybe you get 15 or 20 from Reynolds, and then you could spend up at all these other positions, all these other guys that we really like. So I just think that's an interesting, or Waller at tight end. I think there's a lot of ways we can go here, but I do like the Uzoma long shot play. So that's where I am for that one.
All right, I guess I'll leave Kansas City, Dallas for you. I'll start with Arizona, Seattle, and I think this is a great spot. I think that so Seattle, you had Wilson, who was off for 100 weeks, and he came back against what we just described as a really tough Green Bay defense and just could do nothing. Okay. Yet he threw the ball 40 times, but whatever. Like he just couldn't do anything coming off of the injury, coming off of whatever.
Bad weather.
What's that?
Bad weather in that game too.
Whatever it was. And he comes back, and you're playing Arizona, and the game, you get 100 more plays. It's going to be fast. And I think this is just a great spot for him. So him, Metcalf, Lockett, and then on the Arizona side, I really do hope that Murray plays. It just keeps the pace of the game where I think it needs to be. I do hope that Hopkins plays, but even if Hopkins doesn't play, everybody else is available. I think I was reading through we were just starting this. I was reading through it was actually on the comments on Hopkins, and it was saying that AJ Green is back, Rondale Moore is going to clear the concussion protocol, and Christian Kirk's available too. So even if Hopkins is not back, I think this game is another pretty good pivot game off of Dallas, Kansas City, and I like this a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I forgot to say Connor from the Arizona side is one of the top running backs.
Yeah, I probably will avoid the Connor thing, even though I'm open to it. I think I like other plays in the 5K range is better than I do. But in general, I like the whole game stack. It depends a lot on who's playing though. Chris Carson and DeAndre Hopkins both being questionable is going to dictate a lot. I'll have more interest in Russell Wilson, I think, than Murray if Chris Carson is not back. If Chris Carson is back, I still might, but I would like to have some interest in Chris Carson as well at 5,600. Seems like a very cheap price tag for him. And both Lockett and Metcalf are showing up as two of the best plays for me. And I would always side with Metcalf. He's a little more expensive now, but really like this as a game stack. And then if we don't have Hopkins, if you do have Hopkins, he's my other favorite receiver. I mean, I don't care how many other guys there are and all that stuff. If you have a 6,500 to Andre Hopkins, I'm just going to always live and die on those hills. Like just, especially in which should be a competitive game. So that's what I've got in this one. And one sneaky play, maybe he's not that sneaky anymore, actually. I like both tight ends a little bit. I don't think I can get to Ertz's price, but I do think Gerald Everett. I mean, I know it was a weird game script because they were playing from behind and all that stuff. That could happen again, by the way. But he had 8 catches last week in that game against Green Bay. So I think at 3,100, Everett you could include in your stacks as well. So I agree with you. This is probably the best, like the full game, like to stack other than the final game, which we're about to get to. I really, really like it. So I agree with you with what you said. And it is going to be contrarian to play the early games because people are going to be loaded up on these, especially this last game.
These Seattle receivers are cheap. I mean, 6,800 for Metcalf is cheap. 6K for Lockett is cheap. I mean, especially defense adjusted against Arizona. I mean, this is, and I don't know. I don't really play Rondale Moore that much, but at 4,200, if Hopkins is out, I mean, you could really pile on. And look, this lineup is not going to stay because obviously you get 100 bits of news. It's going to change all this, but you could get like McCaffrey and you know what I mean, like in and get all these good guys from this game. So, all right. So with that all said, why don't you take it away? Because Dallas Kansas City is obviously the marquee matchup of the day. Why don't you talk about this one?
Yeah, so it's just a matter of how you'd want to stack it. I do think it's the best game of the day. I would prefer Mahomes slightly over Dak, but I don't think it's like any sort of landslide here. I really like both of these guys a ton. Probably the top two options not named Josh Allen. I still think Allen with the running upside, maybe a little bit higher than they are. But I absolutely love both of them. I just because of the price gap, I probably am going to favor Cooper over Lamb. Even though I love Lamb, it feels kind of wrong. But I mean, they're both great, as is Tyreek Hill and Kelsey. And this is a week where you are getting a pretty big discount on Kelsey. So maybe I would go that route, but it doesn't mean I don't think Tyreek Hill has tremendous upside here. Where I think this game gets interesting is what do you do with the other pieces, especially Gallup and Hardman. I think Gallup has tremendous upside here. Unfortunately, didn't get the full 4 quarters out of him because of the massive blowout last week. I think Hardman has enough upside here. The problem is he's got more other guys to fight with, including guys like who caught touchdown Sunday night. Our guy Pringle. Yeah. They're all in play. This could be this is one of the higher scoring totals we've seen of the season. The problem is, again, I give Gallup the edge over the other 4K guys, but he'll also be more owned than the Hardman, Pringle, and Robinsons. And I like all of those guys. So I really like this game. I am trying to figure out what I would want to do at running back. If Edwards-Helaire is out, I'll just go right back to Darrell Williams. I mean, we've seen the upside from this guy. It's weird that I actually prefer him than CEH all the time. I mean, not weird. It's just, I think I like the way their offense moves better with him. So I don't know if I want to get to Zeke just because of you're going to get Pollard with some love. It is a great matchup, but I like the other 8K running backs a little bit better than I like Zeke. And so that's it. I think I've got the other pieces ranked, Gallup, Hardman. But then I would want to include, if I was making, which I'm going to make a bunch of game stacks, I would want to include a Pringle or even a very, very maybe long shot-ish play in Demarcus Robinson. It just has so many potential fireworks in this game. And I'm not getting to I'm not getting to Dalton Schultz, but I think he's reasonable. I think I'm looking more at like my favorite, if I had to do it right now, would be like Mahomes to Kelsey, maybe Hardman with Gallup and Cooper on the other side, or maybe Gallup and Zeke. I'm sorry, or Gallup and Zeke, because I need to save a little bit. But that's my first inclination of how to do it. I think there's a lot of ways you can build these stacks and get a little different, even though the game's going to be really popular.
I literally have nothing to add except to say that I do have Kansas City rated higher than Dallas by a lot. Actually, I don't have Dallas rated as high as some of these other teams I mentioned. I have Dallas for whatever reason behind like Minnesota.
Something's wrong with the projections on Dallas.
I guess. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I mentioned Brandon Cooks, and I like Brandon Cooks and all, but he's got a higher projection than CeeDee Lamb does. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. I don't really understand why that would be the case.
Yeah. Sorry, so right now, again, that's where I'm at. But I mean, this game, it's definitely be a great game to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah.
As I tell you, as with all three of those games, those are 3 real good 4 o'clock games. They're all rated to be close. They all have marquee quarterbacks from Burrow to Carr. You could almost consider a marquee quarterback. Burrow, Carr, the Dallas game, and even and Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray if he plays. And this is good football at 4 o'clock today on Sunday, and good for fantasy. This is good stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I just want to highlight something, and not just to give myself credit, but I hope some people got in on that bet that I was screaming about before about the Mahomes when he was 40-1 to win the MVP. Because I think, what is he now? He's like the third?
6 to 5?
No, but I mean, like literally, if KC wins, even if he doesn't even play that well, if KC wins and Buffalo loses, who the hell's the favorite over him? Like Tom Brady was supposed to be the favorite.
What's Kansas City to win the Super Bowl now?
They're like right there. They went from being they were up to 30-something to 1, and now they're like, I believe they're like 8-1 or something. I
was going to say like 8-1. Probably.
My buddy did it. I had my buddy do a bunch of parlay bets with Mahomes and to win the MVP and the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. But then he also coupled it to get like it's like thousands to 1. He coupled it with all the different NBA title teams. The ESPN my 5 favorites to win the NBA title.
Well, and those are the ones that are going to lose. Like the Kansas City want to win easy.
Yeah. Well, Kansas City and Mahomes, I think there's still a great chance for both of those things to happen.
I can't believe they would allow that. That's like that's a fully correlated bet.
No, I know they did. He's got a whole thing on it. But yeah, I mean that's the cool thing I guess about it. I think he did it on FanDuel. I'm not sure. Either FanDuel or DraftKings. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, let's crush it this week. We'll have more for you. Me and Rody will get together Thursday, and we'll have a show for you then. And then obviously we'll be with you Sunday morning at 11:30 Eastern time. And
All
Sheets,
right.
anything else?
No, good luck, and I'll catch you later.
All right. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you soon.